Microsoft move, right?
Yeah.
We want to control the future, so this is our standard. And it's like, well, okay. And then when you saw OpenAI actually do the Google thing and embrace MCP, that was unexpected. I didn't think they were going to do that. It's just strange.
It is. Yeah, it's very strange, and it's just, I don't know, it's weird that, like, they like, MCP already had pretty nice adoption, and now we're like gonna have to pivot to this, I guess. It's annoying fragmentation.
Yeah, it doesn't make our lives any easier, does it?
No, not at all.
That's the one thing that people are not getting. And this is actually, I hate, oh God, I'm aware that I think this is being recorded, but
Yeah.
that, the low end of the developer curve is going to be frustrating for a long time because newer people, companies are now hypnotized by AI and want enhanced developers, and they're ignoring the fact there's a lot of early 20 guys that are just brilliant, and I figure you're one of them, although I don't know if your dog agrees. But um but this putting out all these different standards and what they're like, I don't, and everyone going, oh no, everyone loves to say developers are done for, but middle to upper level, I don't see yet because there's one thing everybody's ignoring, like you just pointed out, the amount of knowledge you have to literally stay on top of. It's not just like trivial variance is exploding, which means the odds of someone designing something that sucks because of all the different flow paths is 100%, and someone's going to have to fix that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I'm definitely, thanks for pointing this out. I haven't opened Twitter yet. I'm sure if I opened Twitter, I would see just like a bunch of posts about this. But I'll definitely be making a post about this today and how we can put the agent TCP/IP in here. Just
Oh yeah,
see,
you got to update the white paper now.
yeah, seize the opportunity. But anyways, yeah. So I want to get started here. Thanks everyone for joining. What's up, G? Good to see you, Seb. Thanks for joining, Seb.
What
We have Ark here. What's up, Ark? Clarence, awesome. Thanks for joining, Clarence. So for those of you that don't know, Clarence is going to be giving a demo on his awesome project that he's building called Litter Music AI. It's actually something I'm very interested in because I've been in the music IP space for some time now and was actually building my own project at one point. So I'm really curious to see what Clarence is up to. Obviously, Robert, thanks for joining. Ram says, what's up? And Victor, always good to see you too. Thanks for making the time. Um, so we're going to start with just like our classic 10 to 15 minute presentation, probably about around 10 minutes. And then we're going to dive into Clarence's demo, and then there's open Q&A. Seb is actually one of our protocol engineers. He's a beast. So if anyone has any protocol specific questions, he's the man. And G is also on the DevRel team here. So great to have you guys. So you can all see my screen, right? Just to make sure.
is clear.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Ramses. Okay, so just quickly, here's some marketing and ecosystem updates. As always, welcome to the new Discord. I think all of you in here already have seen this, so I'm going to skip past this. But we also, this was pretty cool. So those of you who have watched Ready Player One, Robert, I'm sure you've seen this and probably like it. I've loved this movie and read the book. It was super cool. So Ready Player One and also all the other IP owned by Futureverse is coming to Story. So I'm personally really excited about that. On top of that, let's see. On top of that, oh yeah, so I also put out this how does Story actually protect IP. So I just wanted to put this in front of you guys. 'Cause I thought it was a really interesting. I mean, obviously I made it, but I think it's a good diagram to have. If you're thinking about how does Story protect IP. If people ask you how does Story protect IP, there's a lot of different layers to it. One with obviously the pill, then it's mapped on chain, then it's enforced via the dispute module, and then monitored by the story attestation service. If any of you ever have any, questions about it, obviously let me know. This is also in our documentation now. But this actually came to be because of a really cool Twitter thread that our co-founder Jason Sao made, and we got a lot of questions on, how does story actually protect IP. So definitely a diagram to copy and paste if you want. Um, GPT said Ready Player One is a more serious movie than some people might think. Not the hero part of the plot, but the way games will change. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's becoming more and more realistic as the days go by. Also wanted to show this diagram. So we just introduced private licenses to our SDK. It's been possible via the protocol for actually a long time now, but in our SDK it's now supported. And this is really how it works. So if you have your IP asset, let's say a song, you can have multiple licenses attached, right? So let's say you have license 1, license 2. Each of them is different. This one has a minting fee of 10. This has a minting fee of 20. But this one, requires no attribution, and this one does require attribution, right? So these two are attached to the IP asset. So anyone can mint a license if it's attached, because it's public. That's what that means. But the IP owner also has the ability to mint a private license, which means if it's not attached to the asset, they can still select terms, and get a terms ID and mint it to a user. And this is basically a private license where no one can mint this except the owner can privately mint it to a receiver here. So again, just a cool diagram. I've put this in the docs as well. But this is just a if you were curious about how that works in the SDK. What's up, Very Vanya? How you doing? Thanks for joining. Also, this was pretty cool. So, Four Pillars actually released a 71-page book on Story Protocol. So we can actually take a look at it here. It's kind of wild. If you scroll through here, Four Pillars does a lot of research, but this is the table of contents. So they got tons and tons of stuff from the beginning. The reason why story came to be, sort of the problem, how we solve it, on and on and on and on for 71 pages. So, I personally actually haven't read this myself, but I'm going to probably this weekend because, I mean, who doesn't want to read a 71-page book on the company you work for? But yeah, it's also available in print. So maybe I'll be ordering that off Amazon if it's available. But yeah, super super cool. Yeah. On top of that, wanted to share this cool update that Mahojan raised $5 million in funding from A16Z. A16Z is our lead investor, so it was great that Mahojan was able to raise. You can see, boom, 5 million, and they said we're doubling down on accelerating open source innovation at the intersection of AI and crypto. Stay tuned for major announcements soon. So yeah, just another great example of products in our ecosystem. Being able to connect with investors, not just investors, but the best A16Z, and we'll see how Mahojan does from here. Also wanted to say welcome Madonna and Sabrina Carpenter to Story. So as you know, every single week it seems like we're mentioning the biggest names, whether it's Justin Bieber, or BTS or Blackpink. This week it's Madonna and Sabrina Carpenter are coming to Story. So that is also great news. And we also just announced a partnership with Google Cloud. For those of you that don't know, we actually already have Google Cloud is already supporting Story's testnet faucet, so that's really cool. And this is just the beginning with Google Cloud. So it's great to have that sort of mainstream connection with Google Cloud. And again, they're already supporting our faucet, so we'll see where it goes from here. Welcome, Razor. Good to see you as well. No worries. Happy you're here. On to the more interesting stuff for us, the developer updates. So SDK v 1.3.0 is live. Again, we're no longer in release Canada version. We've talked about this quite a bit. But the main interesting part here is the private licenses. So I've already updated all of the TypeScript tutorials. So if we actually want to, if we go to our docs really quick, let me just show you where you can find these tutorials. Yeah, exactly, Robert. If we go to the documentation here, you can see if you go to the TypeScript SDK, we can see there's working code examples, and I believe this is already in the updated version. Yeah, so 1.3.0. So if you want, nothing really changed because there's no breaking changes, but you can mint private licenses now. So in the licenses folder, there's a script called mint license. You could use this if you want to mint private licenses. So all you would do is you have this sort of code here. Let me actually zoom in for you. And what you do is you would put a receiver. So there's not a receiver here, but you would put a receiver, and then you could put or you don't have to if you want to mint it to yourself. And then you would put a license terms ID that isn't attached to the asset, and that would mint a private license. So you could use the script right here. All right. So then, of course, other stuff to help PRs, but we've already talked about that in previous weeks. So any questions on the private licenses? No? Okay, cool. If you do, just put it in the chat. Um, Also, wanted to talk about the upcoming SDK release. So this is Forward Thinking 1.3.1. There's four main objectives here. The first one is batch registering IP assets. So as you all know, again, let's go to the docs here. There's a ton of ways to register IP right now. There's register, there's mint and register, there's register IP and attached terms, there's mint and register. There's a million functions. One of our goals, both from a lot of feedback and just from internal use, is to combine all these functions into one. That's just called register IP. That's coming in the next month or so, I believe in 1.4.0. But before we get to that, there's going to be sort of like an intermediary change where we are taking all like the ability to batch register IP and we're combining that all into one function called batch register. So all these functions you see here, like mint and register, whatever. Right now you could just loop over these and batch register, but we're combining all of them into one function, um, so that you can again batch register your IP. So that's coming. On top of that, setting NFT metadata. So this was a popular ask in our dev community, the ability to change both IP and NFT metadata via the SDK. Right now, you can just set it, but you can't really change it. So that's coming. Also, this is supported by the protocol release that I'll talk about in a second. Um, Robert says, would love it if the Story Protocol servers would grab the registered NFT's description field and show it along with the token and smart contract address when making an API call. That's good feedback. I'll include that in the API documentation. I think so. Are you just saying that because you don't like right now? You have to like it returns the token URI, right? And then you fetch a description with that. You're saying you just don't want to make that extra call, but that's good feedback. Um, Right. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. I think realistically that's probably difficult because everyone wants, everyone is probably looking for their own metadata, right? Like you might want description, someone else might want name, someone else might want attributes, and then you sort of end up having this like very opinionated API. But it's definitely good feedback, and I'll note it down for our API team. Um, okay, so the next one that's coming is get license config. So this is also a popular ask in our community. Um, So, we're going to expose the get license config. This is just going to allow you to fetch the license config details on an IP asset. And then lastly, adding group module functions like adding and removing IP, claiming royalties, and getting claimable reward. If we go to our docs, you can see that some of these you might actually see, like mint and register IP and attach license, blah blah blah, and add IPs to group. But the issue is the individual functions are not exposed. So for example, if you just want to add IP assets to a group, you can't really do that very easily. So we're going to add those as well. Okay. So any questions on any SDK stuff? Okay, cool. Yeah, you're right, Robert, because like, name, description, image are all like, very, very common. I think we're going to have more updates on this because internally we've been talking about, sort of the difference between NFT and IP metadata. We think it's confusing, and we've gotten feedback on this too, that it's confusing that we support both OpenSea spec on an NFT and also IP metadata for the IP. And we want to make one standard that people can implement to make searching easier, to make the API easier, SDK, everything easier. But there's more to come on that. So I would expect some sort of overhaul around metadata. But right now it's we're going to keep the current one for a while, so don't worry about that. Okay. Also, just quick note, if you ever have any suggestions on the SDK, we would love if you would just put them in Discord. So if you're building an application, and you want to have some sort of feature, please ask us, or you can always open a PR in the SDK repo. So if you go to, let's see, I think it's this story protocol /SDK. then you can open a issue right here. Yes, that's correct, Robert. But I meant more like, it's confusing that we have an NFT that has metadata, and then when it gets registered, we also have a separate IP metadata. We want to combine them all into sort of one thing. So maybe that's like an ERC 721 spec that just has extended IP metadata fields. All right. So next, protocol release 1.3.2. This release is coming up soon. It features a lot of fixes and additional restrictions to prevent unexpected behavior, but most importantly for all of you developers, because we've gotten this asked quite a bit, is we've added a set token URI function to the SVG NFT contract. Basically, what this means is you'll see there's a new set token URI function. The reason for this is because previously you couldn't set NFT, you couldn't change NFT metadata if you use the SVG contract. So if you used your own ERC 721 NFT contract, you could change metadata. Now, however, you can change NFT metadata with the SVG NFT contract. So I see Clarence says, "Thank God." That's the reaction that I'm expecting and that I'm hoping for. Great, we're so happy to get that out for you, Clarence, and for everyone else. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, because Clarence, if I'll take a guess. So you're like right now, if you change NFT metadata, it's hard to like get it to actually update. So there's a couple different updates. You have to update the NFT contract. You have to update the set all function in our protocol, and then also we have to refresh an underlying NFT API. So it is a little difficult, but don't worry, we've already identified that, and we're trying to work on a fix internally. No, you don't, Robert. So you can now change NFT metadata via the SVG. Well, at least when this update, hits. So thank you, Seb. Woo! Thanks to Seb. Let's get some claps in the chat here. We got a balloon. Nice. Awesome. I have no idea how you did that, Chief, but that's lit. Awesome. All right. Last thing, and by far the most important. So everyone pay very close attention. So we're expecting on May 13th to launch a IP build-a-thon. Now this is going to be a huge, as indicated by the font here, huge IP build-a-thon starting on May 13th. You should all participate. There's going to be applications, but obviously because it's a build-a-thon, there's going to be many different bounties across many different tracks. So we're going to have a lot of sponsors, a lot of story tracks. So we love for all you devs to participate. We're also going to have an Intro to Web3 course/workshop for those of you who need it. We don't assume a Web3 background. So we want anyone who's been thinking of IP to come in and to apply. We're going to have technical and non-technical workshops. So you don't have to be a technical person. You can come in, maybe you've been thinking about IP for a long time and you have a very interesting idea in the RWA/IP space, and you want to either connect with technical people or you want to just define your product and your idea over the course of the build-a-thon. That's totally allowed. We're going to have a lot of workshops by big names in AI that we can't mention yet. But they're going to do a lot of workshops on, how, the current AI landscape, what's coming in the future, what these sort of AI companies are looking for people to create. So it's going to be a great way to connect with, not only story investors, story leadership team, big AI companies, a lot of story ecosystem projects, but you'll be able to build your own product during the whole experience. And we'll have a lot of technical workshops hosted by me, probably our engineering team, to help you build products on Story and also on other tech stacks that will be sponsoring the hackathon. So applications are opening soon. We probably won't be announcing this until the 22nd, but I wanted to put this all on your radar because it's definitely something that I think if you're watching this presentation, I would really encourage you to participate. So that's the end of this slideshow. Anyone have any questions before I hand it off to Clarence to talk about Lyra music? The contest is huge. You could also be jacked, though.
Will there be a vibe coding edition? No, I'm just kidding.
Will there be a what? Vibe coding?
Yeah, a vibe coding edition of the IP builder fun.
Oh, you can vibe code your project if you want.
Yeah. No, I was just joking, but yeah, I mean, like, yeah. But yeah, of course, like, if it works, if the code works, then why not?
Exactly. Yeah. You can vibe code the whole thing. Remember during the Super Agent Hackathon, the winner actually vibe coded his whole project. So, yay AI. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking here. We're gonna go over to Clarence now to talk about Lyra Music AI. So everyone, make sure to pay attention to Clarence. Okay.
Can you guys hear me and see my screen? Does it
Yeah.
work or no?
I can see. Yep. I can
Okay.
see. Yep.
Cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, nice to meet you guys. So, guess you we're a pretty complicated project, and it seems that we're at a joint venture between Populous, which is basically digital music. Not sure if you heard of these guys, but we did some announcements with Story a while back. They have their music distribution platform, got 1 billion songs, 2 million users, and their Populous is their sort of Web3 angle arm, which I'm an advisor on as well. And my background comes from our protocol. I was a CTO there for a while. We built Web3 infrastructure APIs more geared towards mainstream, like Web2. So these were MPC wallets, multi-party compute wallets that were hosted by, like Blockdaemon, or we use Defense, which is defense.co. So they have the keys with threshold signatures. It's semi-custodial, of course, but it's very good for Web2 onboarding. And of course, Story. So we've been talking to Story a little while. We are the first virtuals AI. We have a little X account, which if you go there, you can see. She's very rudimentary right now, but Vanya here is actually with the Opus Genesis team that I'm also on. And Opus is building an AI framework of its own. So that'll be powering Lyra pretty soon. That's the plan.
Clarence, really quickly. I think I can see your Discord. I can see your. Are you showing your Discord? Are you showing your Discord?
Oh no, yeah, no, I'm trying to show my Discord. I'm trying to show my screen. Let's see here. How do I change it? Their entire screen. Maybe that's what I need to be doing. Can you see them at the website now?
Oh yes, perfect. Can everyone else see that too? Okay, yes, we can all see it now. Thank you, Clarence.
Got it. That's fine. This is the intro. So I was saying, we're also Diddle Music. So we're kind of a joint venture between Diddle Music and Opus, which is the AI side of the project. And what we initially wanted to do was to build an AI infrastructure. So this was our initial project, which was the AI music label infrastructure, which was meant to be an API where agents could release music themselves and publish that music on Story, and then also distribute it on Spotify directly. And that was initial. That's a while back, and then MCP kind of just took off, and then we kind of realized, okay, we got to build MCP, right? So first MVP we have now is basically a chat interface. It's like, think of like ChatGPT, right? You can see my screen, right? So you can actually talk to Lyra. I think they're all set. So what we have here is a full-on clerk login system where a Web2 user can literally just come in here, log in with Google. They get an MCP wallet. Smart account gets spun up on Story. So ERC proper for ERC 437. We have a Pimlico bundler, so we can actually do use proper user ops. So there's no gas fees as well. You don't have crypto at all. You could just jump in here. You can upload your assets. Like here, I just beer. I uploaded this to Story, so you can probably see it right here. So on your phone, you could just take a picture of your beer and then put it straight onto the portal. Through the backend, really is just using the smart account to sign everything, processing metadata as well. So it's pretty cool in that sense. It has full visibility into. There's a number of tools, right? And a bunch of MC tools. We build this all in Cloudflare, so she can see what's there. right? You can actually ask her. This won't work right now. There is actually, I need to ask Seb later. There is a gas estimation error that's happening periodically. So we'll have to figure out what's going on there. But let's try this anyways. So what's happening in the background, I'm sure you can see this, is we actually create an Owl Protocol client with the smart account initialized. We generate the metadata based on what's in your project. So you can actually sort of build up what her context and what you have in there. Mainnet actually worked. Transaction was mined. So this is all gasless. So we have a proper, like I said, an ERC-437 bundler setup, basically Pimlico style. And you just got this now on mainnet. Coco is actually one of our partners, so I wonder that didn't work. It did work.
This is so cool.
Oh yeah, it's being blurred, but it's just really quick. So then, this one problem is people are really lazy. They don't really update the description, right? So like here, if you click this, you should write something about it. Though we're still very early. It's like the MVP, which we should get out for next week. But the better thing is music is also a huge, big overhaul. So we're actually working with Opulus really closely now that we're going to overhaul this whole asset system where you have basically music projects and image projects. And even a music project, not only do you register on mainnet and test it, but once you register on mainnet, you can actually click another button to just literally push it to Spotify. So we'll just take care of the rest. We have an API endpoint on the Opulus side that will basically take that data, prep it, reach out to you if there's any issues, and then we could possibly put you onto Spotify. So that'd also be really cool. Hey, the bundle's working today. I don't know why it was just not working like a few minutes ago. So there's a gas estimation. There was a gas user estimation error. You can see my terminal, right? I think it's way up here. Yeah, paymaster deposit for user op is too low. So I think there might be some. I know for like Sei and Celo blockchains for our protocol, we have an issue. We just have to manually override the thing. But just so you guys can see too, I just want to show you. So this is what the backend is, right? This is where I used to work at before I just literally quit and went full on AI. But they have this is what's running in the background for the wallets. So I think it's pretty interesting because it's full on mainstream Web 2. We have 2 marketing companies that we've actually now sort of connected with that are happy to push this pretty soon. We do have a token. Idea is to go very mainstream, to just go straight onto TikTok, Instagram, have like random people just upload whatever they want, their whole album of Instagram photos, whatever, right? And just literally just put them on the portal really quickly. And then hopefully we want to create some sort of system where people create artwork or AI art, and you're able to also generate a license. So after you have the mainnet, right, you can register. This isn't done yet, but you should be able to create the license as well. And when that actually happens, you can specify perhaps something like, allow people to remix for free. Because I imagine like the first few, you'd have a large tree of assets with a lot of people using remixing and derivatives of what people are until something that finally gets created. Like let's say someone makes a comic book art, right? Comic book out of like thousands of IP assets that were all sort of like built up from all these people contributing stuff, right? And then when the money comes in, that money sort of trickles down. That's kind of what we want to create is a lot more like quantity, maybe. Hopefully we don't flood the portal, so maybe we'll have to like sync up with a story on what this is actually going to look like. It's all very scalable. Like I said, we're using like all edge tech, right? This is deployed on Vercel. This is Cloudflare workers running most of everything. All the images are deployed to S3 CloudFront on proper CDN. Sort of what we're building, and that. The main thing too is also to have this helpful AI so I can show you too. What tools do you have? We also are going to expose this MCP server to be public, hopefully, right? This will require us to implement the Cloudflare OAuth workers SDK, which will actually make Lyra or Opus, whatever we decide, to actually be an OAuth server. So people can actually get API keys and directly just hit our MCP. And so the long-term vision is that any agent could literally stake some IP or stake some Lyra token, get an API key, and then could have some sort of process where it makes music and literally just go to our NCP and just publish on Spotify. We actually can have like full end-to-end music creation to music generation. And we're talking pretty closely with Laudamon. So Laudamon's creating the music generation stuff. We're also partnered with Solo AI. So we've connected with a lot of people in the space. Minboku wants to do something with us. So this is all very alpha sneak peek, but we do want to open this up. We're going to get some KOLs in here very soon to start playing around with it, creating some assets. And then once they're happy, they're going to start creating marketing content for it. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. Also, you get this thing really robust and solid.
Yeah, Clarence, this is so cool, and I'll let anyone ask any questions they want, whether it's in the chat or you can unmute your mic. Robin, I'm sure you have some questions, but that was sick. So is the goal to like eventually like have full support for the SDK and just allow anyone to like plug that MCP server into their app, and then they could register, dispute whatever is available in the SDK?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yes. So the problem with the SDK is I'm not sure yet. I have to play around with this, but I wasn't able to get. So we use basically Pinnacle, right, under the hood, permissionless. The smart account client injecting it directly into the SDK, I don't know if that worked because we use a bundler and everything. It's kind of messy, right? So right now, the way I'm doing it is using I actually look at the contracts and I just create a right contract, sign it, and then we issue you can just post that user op to our bundlers. We have our own bundler, which pays the gas fees, right? So that's something that would be available to everybody that we just run out of gas. So what there is also there's a gas tank, right? So we have a few IP in there, and that gas tank is depleted, then we can't do any more transactions. We just keep that topped off, a bit of a buffer in there. The real goal here is mainstream adoption, right? So we just want people on Instagram to just like say, "Oh, cool! I saw my this Instagram influencer create some art, put it on story by just talking to an AI chatbot, and I want to do the same thing. I want to use her art or something, right? So we want to make these processes possible. So we have two marketing teams, like I said. They're going to try to see how we can make this more viral, right? And then also you want agents to get in there. That's a bit more complicated. So we're doing a lot. Vanya here is also on my team. So he's the lead of the Opus Genesis team. So he's a legit AI guy, been in AI for a long time. If you have any questions about the actual framework behind it, eventually what will happen is Lyra on X will be able to see what people are creating too, and she'll be talking about it. So it'll be like, oh, cool, this guy uploaded his beer or something, right? For example. But that's kind of what we want to see, is way more interactive as people start using this platform. Should be talking about what's happening or what people are doing on the Lyra platform. So it'll be super much more engaging. Like I said, she's also a Virtuals AI, so we have Virtuals team also backing this. We're the first Virtuals on Story. We actually just bridged over a while back too. So yeah, we're in base and Story.
That is so cool. So you know what I'll do? I'll ask our SDK team if we can support smart accounts, because I know what you mean. Like, it does get messy pretty quickly. But during the Super Agent Hackathon we did a couple months ago, someone else during that had mentioned this as well. So I'll definitely see if we can support that, because I think this is very cool use case.
Cool. Yeah, and then if somebody, so you get me in touch with someone about the gas estimation bug that happens periodically, that'd be interesting. They're good or helpful too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Do you mind actually putting that error in like a forum post in this Discord, and like what the code is associated with it, because then we can definitely take a look into it.
Okay, yeah, sure, we'll do.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions?
That's amazing. That's awesome. I was going to ask if you could dig in a little more. I know you mentioned the bundler and Pimlico, but when it comes to like actually being the custodian, like for a user wallet, they're going to be registering IP. They're the owner of that IP. Do they have a way to like get their wallet keys, or is there any more details about how you're handling that?
Yeah, I'd love to go into it. So no, they can't, right? So this is a very much a Web2 play, right? I think we would have wallet support down the road. The idea is, well, so what happens right now is they basically can do everything they want, but they could transfer out. So we use the clerk JWT that you create to basically authenticate you and tie you to this API key. So let's say semi-custodial, because ultimately, at the end of the day, our protocol could actually get into access, but they can't. Your private keys are never exposed, right? So the way that Blockdaemon, all these NPC providers, they work is that it's a threshold signature. So there's private keys like in the cloud, and there's multiple signers, and you don't need all of them to sign, right? So the private key is never actually exportable. The whole idea here is you can always just transfer ownership and transfer mid-to role and admin role to somebody else, right? So I think once people are more advanced, they could just bring their own non-custodial wallet and then transfer the assets and transfer the admin mid-to role. If you look at my logs too, you'll see that I actually do transfer the roles. Eventually, what's going to happen too is we'll just throw away the API keys because we're using the AWS or even Cloudflare's like key value store. You could tie an API key, encrypt it with their clerk auth, and then I would also not have access to that API key. So it's a one-time API key. You see it one time, you see the secret one time, and then you can't, then it's pretty much your API key as a kind of a private key. And then there's a fallback, which is if something does happen, we can revoke it. That's only really a real difference. Still got to take care of that API key.
I see. So users are actually the owner of the underlying IP. They could transfer after the fact. It's not as if you're the registrant and owner of all the IPs that are being registered.
Yeah. Well, users still have to register too. So users are minting themselves. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you. It's amazing.
Really cool. Does anyone else have any
Well-
questions or comments?
Well, I have a general comment about the market, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, there's been a lot of discussions where people try to make Story Protocol justify their existence because they point out quite rightly that just because something's registered doesn't mean you can't illegally copy it. But I believe, and I'm asking sites like Lyra, you're going to prioritize when you are scanning for NFTs to talk about and tell people about. You will prioritize people that are good actors on Story Protocol, won't you?
I don't see why not. Yeah, I mean, I think that hasn't really even been explored yet. Obviously, that's the plan, but we'll actually have to think about that properly, how they want to best do that.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So all these people are coming on board with these great tools like Lyra, and people who are not good actors, people who try to skirt the Story Protocol infrastructure will be punished because everyone knows, like on OpenSea, the most important thing is to get on the front page. That can be millions of dollars. Well, if you're not a good actor, if you're not paying your royalties by going outside of Story Protocol, you're going to fall into oblivion when it comes to marketing presence. So I just wanted to make that point because that's a very strong counter argument to the people that have been trying to prove that because you cannot guarantee that there won't be illegal copying, that this system overall won't work. No, there'll be tremendous punishments for being a bad actor, and that is your stuff will not be seen.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yes, absolutely. So it's also very hard to prove that you stole someone's art, right? And we kind of want to. It's still always voluntary, I'd say, even with the enforcement. That if you use someone's art, but we probably want to create a tree, right? I think that maybe that's probably what we want to do. I'm not sure. This might be getting digressing a little bit, but the way I really wanted to visualize this was perhaps on the portal, seeing the tree of derivatives that came before, right? The lineage very clearly. I don't know how that's currently represented. I haven't seen it too much, but seeing that properly.
Well,
And if we see that there's no lineage, perhaps that you just like sort of one shot this, then we'd be very skeptical, perhaps.
yeah, but there's also community driven. Like Jacob, correct me if I'm wrong in anything I say, because I'm very good at saying the wrong thing. There could be a server that's running a cron job continually scanning using something like the Llama vision model. And as soon as someone makes a dispute, files a dispute with Story Protocol, it can do automatic scanning of the images or content involved and then flag anything that a human should review. Because normally what happens is the humans are overwhelmed by the scammers. In this case, no. We use the community to file a dispute because if someone's stealing your art, you're gonna make a noise, and then that's backed up by an automated system which filters out the frivolous claims using something like the vision models to see if there's any basis for an illegal copyright claim or not.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and there's two parts to that, right? The first one, which you mentioned, is the dispute module, where someone recognizes like, hey, this person's disputing my IP, or someone else's, and actually will file a dispute on story. But I think you're also sort of getting at the story attestation service, which is sort of like that scanning ability to go out into the internet and use different forms, different methods to detect bad IP. So that's where the story attestation service comes in. Is like, let's say one provider is like, for example, Yokoa, right? Yokoa's on story. They're like an AI detection service, sort of what you're talking about with the Llama model, where they auto scan the internet and see if there's existing images or content that's similar to an IP asset that's registered. And every time an IP asset is registered, they're flagging it if it's potentially infringing, and that's what's actually supporting the portal. And then there's other providers too, right? They may not use AI, but let's say, for example, Verio. Verio is an IP staking platform where you can stake on IP. If people are staking on IP, then that's almost like a form of validation or attestation for the IP and saying it's valid, right? If I stake 1,000 IP token, then it must be valid. Let's say this IP has 1,000,000 IP staked from so many different people. It's more likely than not valid than if it had 0 IP staked. So there's a bunch of ways to attest to the validity of it, and the whole point is that we don't want to block registration, we want to filter it. And so I think that's exactly what you're talking about. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yes, it is that, and that's perfect. And that's why I love stories infrastructure. One funny thing, I'm saying this tongue in cheek, maybe only halfway. One of the for music, because you've got a different problem with music since it's not image based. Story Protocol could establish a YouTube channel where every time someone registers a music asset, they upload it to YouTube, and if YouTube's content ID system flags it, that becomes a problem. So you could take advantage of YouTube's service to finance that part of your your dispute resolution.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, very interesting point. Thanks, Robert, for bringing that up. Cool. So yeah, that is the end of that segment. I'm gonna stick around, and we obviously have Seb here from our protocol team, me and G from DevRel team. So if anyone has any questions about building, feel free to stick around and ask your questions. Otherwise, the office hours is officially over. Thanks so much again, Clarence, for giving that demo. Really cool what you're building, and I also recorded the session, so I'll probably post a highlight snippet on Twitter, and we'll get people to check out Lyra. So thanks so much. I will also, yeah, I'll upload the recording, I'll upload the slides, and then I'll also upload Ramses. If you do, also Ramses, I hope you're feeling better. By the way, I know last week you were sick. Hope you're feeling better this week. If you do, perfect. Okay, you're gonna post a recap, so I'll also upload that to the announcements channel. And thanks everyone for tuning in. So yeah, feel free to head out. We're gonna stick around for like a couple minutes if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, we'll head out too. So thanks everybody. All right. I think it looks like we don't have any questions. So Seb, thanks for coming. I know we didn't have any questions for you this week, but I appreciate you coming anyway. And feel free to head out. That's the end.
Yeah, Clarence, for the gas issue, could you please send us, maybe just DM me like the error message you're getting so I can take a look?
Yeah, sure, we'll do. I think
Yeah,
of course there's
sure.
a help and questions channel that he was saying that I can just drop it in there, but maybe I was DMing you because I don't know if someone really knows.
Yeah.
Will do. Thanks,
Yeah.
man. All right, see ya.